Hey there. I'm sure you'll agree with this statement that there is very little that matters more for mental clarity, energy, mood, and performance than having your back and neck in good condition. When you've got that sore, throbbing neck and headache, your moods are affected, you're irritable, your energy is low, it's not a good place to be. If you've seen the other video I've done on how to set up your desk in order to support good posture and the exercises that you can do in your desk, you'll know from that the guiding principle to this is contracting those muscles instead of extending them. When you contract them, you bring blood supply and elasticity, and you want to be doing that as often as possible during the day. As I mentioned in that video, these are things I learned from Dr. Athol McLean, and the most important thing that he insisted upon is that in order to have good back and neck health and condition, you need to have a good lordotic curve or lordosis. That's this curve, which we also call the small of your back or your lower back, and you want that to be in and not out. It means that those muscles are flexing, they're in, and they can get that blood supply and elasticity. And what I discovered along this journey is that the best way to keep your lordosis in is to stretch your hamstrings and the muscles of your legs and hips. If you're not convinced, take a look at old people who struggle to walk, who are walking with a walking stick. 9 times out of 10, their back is convex and not concave. Their lordosis is out, and I say that's due to them having tight hamstrings and not having stretched out those muscles of the legs and hips. Now, when I was in my 20s, I'm 53 now, I had a terrible lordosis. It was way out, my back was very tight. I took up meditating in my early 20s, and I struggled, even when I was sitting in a chair, I struggled to maintain that position for the required 20 minutes. My back would get very, very tired and I would have to lean back. And somewhere in all of that, it clicked that this had to do with my hamstrings. After all, I'd been going to gym. I started gym when I was about 11 years old. I did a lot of bodybuilding, played rugby, cycled all through my teenage years, into my early adulthood, and during that time I had done very little stretching. Also in my 20s I tried a bit of yoga, and when I did that I realized I had very little to no flexibility. And so somewhere I put these things together and I thought maybe it has to do with these hamstrings and the tightness of the muscles in my legs and hips. So I started these exercises and stretching, and I got tremendous gains out of that, and it had a knock-on effect into helping me to develop a much better lordosis and being able to sit for much longer periods when I was meditating. I have a little story that I'll share with you around that serves as evidence of how effective this can be. But first, let's go and take a look at those exercises. The first exercise is the good old hamstring stretch. This is pretty straightforward. I sit on the yoga mat and hook my hands over my toes for a count of 100. Then I hook my hands around the side of my feet in order to get a deeper stretch for another count of 100. You may need to start out by wrapping a belt around your feet and pulling yourself forward. No shame, I started just like that. You'll be surprised at how quickly you progress. The next exercise is butterfly knees. There are various ways you can do these. I prefer to hold my feet and pull my lordosis in, thereby flexing my lower back muscles as I push my knees towards the ground. I do this one for a count of 40. Then comes the knee cradle. The first time I attempted this one, I nearly died. It stretches your gluteus maximus, the buttock muscle. This muscle is often very tight in men in particular, especially people who do weights and who cycle. I had done plenty of both, and yet I experienced very quick gains and tremendous benefits from this stretch. Today I find it quite easy and comfortable. I do each leg for a count of 40. Then we come to the seated shin stretch. Sit with your shins flat on the ground for a count of 100. Some days I take it up to 200. You'll feel a tremendous deep stretch in the anterior tibialis, which you'll experience as your shin, and possibly also in your quadriceps, the front of your thigh. Then there are 2 elements you can add to this stretch. The first is to do some twists, exactly like the ones you learned in the desk fitness video. Extend your arm and turn your torso gently while keeping your eyes locked on your hand. Because there's less pressure on the spine, you might get some nice resetting of the discs when you do these twists while seated in this position. Once again, always exercise care with your spine. Don't overextend, and be extra careful if you've had spine surgery or you think you might be heading that way. Then you can deepen the stretch to bring the focus to your quadricep muscle. Stage 1 of this is to lean backwards onto your hands and push your hips skywards. You'll feel a good stretch in the front of your thigh. If you feel up for it, you can then lower yourself onto your forearms in what's effectively a light version of the yoga pose called Vipassana. In my experience, this exercise has an added benefit in that it compresses the discs, and that seems to release a tremendous amount of energy into the body. When I get up from this stretch, I feel like I've already had my morning coffee. Be extra careful if you attempt this one, as you can hurt your back. It's important that you start slowly and only do what you feel comfortable and safe with. Or you could substitute this exercise for another one. For example, getting up on your knees and pulling your heel up towards your buttock behind you. So those are the core stretches that I've developed and that I'm offering to you. I also like to add a few others. Firstly, the yoga Sun Salutation. It offers an extra stretch opportunity and it helps to get the energy flowing. Don't use mine as the definitive demonstration. You can get expert instructions online. The conventional approach is to do a sequence of 12 of these, leading alternatively with the right leg and the left leg 6 times each. I just do a couple and I focus on the lower back contraction and hamstring stretch opportunities that it provides. You can get a good stretch of the hamstrings when you come up and again when you go down. Then comes the upward facing dog position. If you can, lift your knees off the ground and try to get a good contraction in the muscles of the lower back. In the downward dog position, focus on pushing your heels down towards the ground and simultaneously roll your hips forward, making a good attempt to get a contraction in your lower back. You'll also want to try to push your chest towards your knees. The idea is that if someone poured a droplet of water at the base of your spine, it would run up along your spine rather than off to the side. And that's not all. If you want a natural energy boost that lasts the entire day, the yoga standing poses are better than any supplement you could take. In fact, I find that when I do these in the morning, my energy during the late afternoon, early evening is always much stronger. These poses require and develop strength, endurance, and suppleness. It will be best if you can get proper instruction on these, whether from a book, an online video, or an actual teacher. As with any yoga pose, there are fine details that you have to get right so that you can get the full benefit out of them. You can hold the poses for as little as a count of 10 or 20, and you can extend that to a minute or 2. If you can hold them all for longer than that, then you're moving into championship level. They're great for the heart, and for the same reason, take it easy if you have a heart condition. If that's the case, you may want to get medical advice before trying them. There's not much more to say about them except that they are way more strenuous than they look. And guess what? That's not all. When I can't get to the gym during the week, which is pretty much every week right now while we're on lockdown, I do a set of weights-free aerobic and strength exercises. This is just a short program that I found online, and I'm sure you can find one just the same. This one includes bodyweight squats, although I do use a bit of a weight there, push-ups, prone cobras, mountain climbers, and star jumps. This is a timed interval training and you do as many sets as you can with 20 seconds between the exercises and a minute between the sets. I've included it here just to give you an idea of what a total program might look like. Now, I took up meditation in my early 20s, and at first the style that I used had you sitting in a chair that was fine. Even then I had some discomfort. And I learned these exercises and I learned to stretch my hamstrings and I learned to sit better and I learned to do these contractions, and so I was able to sit better. But then I learned another form of meditation, Vipassana. You learn it in a 10-day silent retreat where you sit for 10 hours a day, 2 hours at a time, on a mat, on the floor, maybe with a little cushion to support you, and you meditate. What I discovered when I did that program, you can imagine, it's exhausting, it's painful, and it's very tiring on your back. The surprising thing was, having done these exercises and the desk exercises, I found that by the end of the 10 days, despite being the tallest person in the room, I was one of the few who was able to sit upright and had the least impact in terms of back pain. Certainly my buttocks were sore, my hips were sore, my knees. However, my back was very strong, and I attribute it very much to these exercises. So hopefully that story just inspires you a little bit to take these on and make it a regular practice, whether you're meditating or anything else that you're doing. I hear stories of people who are cyclists and they have this tremendous back pain. Well, cycling really shortens up those quadriceps muscles and those hamstrings. And are you stretching enough to compensate for that? So when I do these exercises in the morning, I see it as money in the bank for when I get old. When I have that little bit of pain in the morning, I always think this is going to save me a lot of pain and provide me with a lot of energy and mental clarity when I'm a lot older. Thank you, and if you've enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe. I'm Neil Beerbaum, signing off, and we'll see you in the next episode.